Well, a very good evening and welcome to each and every one of you joining us for this week's episode of Your Manchester. This week we are here looking at the Mental Health Awareness Week, supported as always by the Mental Health Foundation. This year's theme is body issues, and who out there can honestly say they haven't felt insecure about some facet of their body? As we do move into the start of this episode, I'd like each and every one of you to remember and take to heart that you are enough, you are loved and you are beautiful. Welcome to Your Manchester. Well, we're here at the rehearsal of the B Vocal Choir. Now, this is a collection of people from Manchester who come together once a week for a good old sing-song and lots of fun. But what makes this particular group very, very special is that they have or have had mental health challenges. The choir is for everyone over the age of 18, and they all come together in a non-judgmental atmosphere with the aim, of course, providing fun. And by singing and providing that fun, they're helping their mental health. So we're now joined by the musical director of not just this choir, but several choirs all around Manchester. How are you?
I'm great.
Tell us the choirs that you're involved in.
So, yes, obviously Manchester Mental Health Choir I set up last year, which is every Wednesday night. I also did the Parslwood Choir that sang with Ariana at the One Love concert as well, obviously after the attack last May. And from that I've then gone on to do many other choirs as well. I do one for Manchester City Council staff, and I've got one in Northern on a Tuesday. I've got 7 now a week.
Wow.
I do.
And what
Keeps me
made you want
busy.
to set up this particular one then for the mental health awareness?
To be honest, all the choirs that I've done and even all the singing that I've ever done, I've always noticed that a lot of people always find singing as something that kind of helps them with their mental health. Even a lot of young people, when I was teaching singing, you could see how they really blossomed when they sang. And I think a lot of people that go to choirs, you know, they might go because it might kind of relieve stress and things like that, but then sometimes people who might have quite bad anxiety and stuff might not want to go to that choir because they'll feel you know, it might be a bit of a scary place, where with this, with it being Manchester Mental Health Choir, they just know that, you know, it's a really safe space. Everyone there understands the situation that they might be in and things like that. And, you know, singing is just such a great thing for mental health.
So we're now joined by Ged Mulherin, and of course a face that you might recognise of quite a popular programme over on ITV. This is our lovely Cherylee. How are you?
We're good, yeah.
We are going to mention this fantastic thing you do, which is Triple C.
Yes.
Tell us what it is.
Triple C we set up a couple of years ago to enable people with disabilities to access the arts across the board, really. And we do it, we work in SEN schools, we have our B Vocal Choir, and we also have our Disabled Artists Network community, where we're trying to increase the employment of artists with disabilities in the mainstream, to sort of then, we think that will ripple and change how disabled people are treated in society.
So what age groups does that work with then?
Well, for the SEN colleges and schools, we work from around about 12 right up to age 22.
And why do you think it's so important that one of these things exists?
The work we do in schools, it's about empowering young people to find their own identity and courage. And because I think drama's a tool. It's not just drama, it's what it enables you to engage and find, you know, you explore things that you might never have explored in real life, but then that means you connect with your emotions more, you can then discover who you are much more, and then that, we've discovered it makes such a difference to people's confidence.
I feel like your work's valuable, you know, we feel like we're doing something that, you know, helps change lives, really. I mean, the actual Triple C stands for the Creative Confidence Collective, so it's all about that whole thing, using confidence, you know, creativity to create the confidence that we sort of want to search for.
Yeah, so when we did our first lesson at Seashell Trust, within 45 minutes every young person had passed their term goals within that first 45 minutes without us even knowing what they were.
We're now joined by Laney Craig. You're a psychologist.
I am, yes.
What is that for those people that don't know?
So a psychologist is someone, there's different areas of psychology, but my particular area is to look after people who have mental health challenges and to design what's called an intervention. Okay. So that's to design something that that's going to help them that's not medication.
Okay.
So that's
Would
what
you
I do.
suggest then that anybody that feels they're suffering with a mental health issue sees a psychologist or sees a doctor first? Which way would you say is the best path?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, actually. It used to be that you would see your GP first and then your doctor would refer you to a psychologist. But they've actually changed that model now. So if you feel like you might be suffering from depression or anxiety or perhaps post-traumatic stress, then you can actually self-refer now to a psychologist. Right. So you've got the power in your own hands without seeing a GP, and it actually makes that waiting list a little bit shorter as well.
Because there is a big waiting list, isn't there, if you go via a GP?
Yeah, there can be, yeah.
What would you suggest, if you're feeling it really badly, is the best way to basically just give you a bit of impetus to sort yourself out?
Yeah. I mean, finding a hobby is always a good one. Getting outdoors, trying to take a walk, even if it's just round the block. You don't have to go on a marathon run or a half marathon. Just walking around the block, being in nature. Or animals are a really good form of therapy as well. So volunteering at a dog's home or a dog shelter do the world a good.
Well, we're joined by a very gorgeous little creature, and another one of my favourite creatures is about to tell you all about what's going on the world of screen. Hayley, it's over to you.
Hi, I'm Hayley and welcome to On The Box. Now, at the end of April, the BBC announced a new major mental health series for the whole of Mental Health Week. Now, the BBC, of course, does have a long commitment in tackling mental health issues, and past films and programmes have helped bring the conversation into the open and resonated with audiences. There'll be 3 personal films: Nadia, Anxiety and Me for BBC One, and for BBC Two, Alistair Campbell, Depression and Me, and David Harewood, Psychosis and Me. On BBC Two, the film Evelyn is about the director's family's struggle with grief after the suicide of his brother. Now, Holby City will also cover various mental health storylines amongst its characters, while Casualty will highlight the traumas and day-to-day struggles that A&E staff and paramedics face and how these can actually lead to mental health issues. On BBC Three, a new film explores PTSD, that's post-traumatic stress disorder, in young people and the rate of suicide amongst former and serving members of the British Armed Forces in The War in My Head. And later this year, Jessie Nelson of Little Mix, remember the group Little Mix? She will explore body image and mental health in a new documentary, Jessie Nelson, My Story. And she's going to be looking at how growing up in a social media-fueled age of selfies, body shaming, trolling, how that actually affects the state of mental health for young people. Now, of course, millions of people are affected by mental illness. It's estimated that 1 in 6 people will have actually experienced a common mental health problem in the past week. And more of us will actually know many people who suffer or have been affected in the past, because no one is immune. Now, before I go, I just want to reiterate, as I often do, that you're never alone. Never. Please do not suffer in silence. There are various organisations you can contact, and these include the charity Mind. Their number is 0300 123 3393, or you can text 86463. The Samaritans on 116 123, or if you actually prefer to write your feelings down, because sometimes of course that is easier, you can email them as well. If you do live in the Manchester area, you can also contact the LGBT Foundation, of course, and their number is 0345 330 3030. Now that's it from me. Have a good week. I'll see you next time. Bye.
So how do you go about putting something like this together?
Originally, it was a conversation over a gin and tonic, as most ideas are. And we just said, look, this is something we want to do. Put a date in the diary. We were lucky enough to have ITV Grande Reports got really involved in it, so that was great because they did a big report on us, and kind of from that, obviously, then we had loads of people actually come. I guess the main thing is just getting it out there that if you do struggle with any kind of anxiety or depression or whatever it may be, any kind of mental health difficulty, that it is a safe space. And not only this choir, but actually, any choir really, just to go and sing and to have an hour of your week, which isn't stressing about work or isn't stressing about anything else in your life or isn't thinking about your kids or your husband or your wife or anything like that. It's just about singing. So the main message that I want to get from this choir and other choirs that I do really is just come and give it a go and come and sing if you want to. And, you know, hopefully with the concerts that we go and do with this choir, you know, we go in and doing concerts for different mental health charities and stuff to be able to spread that word and to show 40, 50 people up there singing who, you know, actually struggle with mental health difficulties, but yet they're up there singing their hearts out.
And coming together as groups, like what you do, for instance, with the Triple C and also with the choir here, that's always important, isn't it? Having a hobby, having something to do, having something to work as a group with.
Yeah, it's really important, I think, and certainly with the choir, because we get a group of people together, some who've not been out of the house for a long time before they started with the choir, and then social skills just improve, just that having that evening where they get together, sing their hearts out, and then have a chat in the break. We encourage that in the break as well, people to get to know each other and make new friends.
And what is next for Triple C then?
Dank London, our Disabled Artists Network community, we've had over 350 artists now, I think, attend about 9 events, all artists with disabilities. And that's about coming together and letting the industry know where to find people and also to have that community and a centralised voice. And also then that means we can work together as a community to enable to share how to make things accessible, which then takes the onus off the individual. So the BFI is launching us in June.
Yep, June.
Yeah, and we're looking to fundraise. We want to start a youth theatre for disabled young people, and the aim of that one is to then invite all the other youth theatres from the area to come and learn how to make their work accessible. So then when our young people start going to the ones nearer their home, it's not, the onus isn't on the individual again. So yeah, we're just slowly trying to change lots of little things.
And all our projects are done through donations and charity organisations and arts boards and things like that. So we're running the 10K, the Manchester 10K as well on the 19th.
Wow.
There's a group of us, some choir people, some Triple C people, all doing that again for the 3rd year. This is just 4th year that Triple C have done it.
Yeah, because we got electric wheelchair users into the 10K for the first time 4 years ago, because electric wheelchair users weren't allowed to join.
Yeah.
So we've got them to change that, and now we have our own waves.
Yeah.
So then if you're feeling anxious, or if you don't want to set off in a big crowd because of your disability, we've got a wave where you can start, and it's actually labelled the disabled or accessible wave now. So it's just trying to make little ripples.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've got quite big dreams about trying to change the whole access of Manchester myself, personally, and then ripple that across the country.
Mental health seems to be becoming more and more prevalent in everybody's minds, and people are talking about it now.
Yeah.
Why do you think people used to suppress it so much?
Yeah, there used to be a real stigma attached to mental health, which was really bad, you know, and we used to sort of see people with mental health problems as crazy or criminal even at times. But it's just not true. Mental health is just like physical health. Everyone has mental health, and whether yours is good or whether yours is bad or somewhere in between, every single one of us will be affected at some point. And there's that figure at the moment that says 1 in 4 will be affected, which isn't actually true. Everyone has mental health, and it's just how you look after yours.
And what I wanted to ask you was, this anxiety and depression, for those people that are feeling basically the world's just plummeting away from them, how would they be able to differentiate between anxiety and depression?
Good question. So it is a complicated sort of relationship, anxiety and depression, and often the symptoms can overlap. One of the things I would say about depression is people often think you feel sad and teary and want to cry, but sometimes that isn't the case. So when depression sets in, it can just sometimes be a constant feeling of maybe worthlessness. So it's not always that you feel sad. And if you've had depression for a long time, actually anxiety can creep in as well, because you begin to get anxious that you're not going to get better, which can make the symptoms quite complicated.
Make them a lot worse.
Yeah.
And you talk about different therapies such as hobbies and stuff. Singing is it's being recognised as actually a really good therapy, isn't it?
Yeah, so it was recently credited by some psychiatrists in America as well who did some studies.
Right.
So there's now 2.8 million people in the UK who have joined choirs specifically. And we know a lot about singing individually, so, you know, the sciencey part, if you like, is that it releases endorphins in your brain.
Right.
And endorphins are that feel-good thing. If you do a workout at a gym, you release endorphins and you get that sort of feeling afterwards. And that happens when you sing in a choir as well. And endorphins, what they do is they reduce physical pain as well, which is interesting. And endorphins also reduce your stress hormone, so it reduces your cortisol levels. So you begin to feel a bit calmer.
So there is a whole science in it then?
There is, and the special bit about science with choir singing that's different from individual singing is a chemical called oxytocin, and we all love it because it's your love hormone.
Right.
So it really beats things like isolation and loneliness. And when you get together with other people and sing, the relationships you form with the people in the room are really deep and really meaningful. And we did some research with our choir, and beating loneliness was one of the surprise elements that no one expected.
Right.
And loneliness is the second biggest killer now, you know, when you compare it to smoking. So it's quite interesting.
Second compared
to smoking, yeah.
Wow.
So we really need to tackle it and look at it.
Well, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You'd advise, surely, to people to stop smoking.
Definitely.
You should advise people not to be getting themselves in lonely situations, obviously
Yeah,
sometimes avoidable. Well, I believe that keeping yourself busy and keep yourself focused and perhaps taking on a hobby can always help your mind lift from anxieties and depression that you might be suffering. With that in mind, we sent sitters to investigate a group of societies simply known as amateur theatrics.
All the world's a stage, and all men and all women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and man in his time plays all the parts. Well, this week I'm taking a look at the amateur dramatic scene in and around Greater Manchester. Wherever you live, I'm sure that you won't have to go far to find a local Amdram society. But my suggestion is, firstly, you have a look at the GMDF, the Greater Manchester Drama Federation. And it's an association that is there to promote, assist and encourage and develop drama. The member societies are listed by area, so have a look on them. You can get contact details for the society and dates and events, for their plays. Pop on down, have a look at them, and if you like them, give it a go. And likewise, you can have a look at NODA, the National Operatic and Dramatic Association, or ACT UK, the Association of Community Theatres. Now, all three are here to help develop amateur theatre within the area. If you have a look at most amateur dramatic societies in the area, they were formed around about 1946 or 1947 in order to continue the good spirit created during the dark years of World War II. My childhood society was one such society. It came under an umbrella group of Swinton and Pendlebury Arts Club. There was the Cine Group, there was the Music Appreciation Group and the Painting Group. Our president was Violet Carson, Coronation Street's Ina Sharples no less. One society that predates all the rest is the Manchester Athenaeum Dramatic Society, whose roots come from the Manchester Athenaeum Society, which was formed in 1837 for the advancement and diffusement of knowledge. In 1843, one of the headline speakers was no less than Charles Dickens. MADs, as they are now called, currently reside in Chorlton. Now, if you fancy a bit of musical theatre to exercise those tonsils or tap those tiny feet, there are a multitude of societies to choose from. So if you're a singer, a dancer or an actor, or more importantly, all three, the triple threat, the operatic and musical societies are for you. I'll use Stockport Operatic Society as an example of such a well-run society. Now, they put on one show a year. They will audition March or April, and then they will start rehearsals April or May, to culminate with 6 performances in October. They will hire the Plaza Theatre, a beautiful Art Deco theatre in the centre of Stockport. They will hire the scenery, and you'll be provided with probably up to 5 costumes. And through ticket sales and sponsorship, they will put on a £40,000 production. And finally, what I consider to be the highlight of the year, Showcase Manchester, which is held at the Lowry each year. Now this year it's going to be held on Sunday the 21st of July. The tickets are a mere £16 each. It's where 7 societies come together and each one does a compilation from 7 different shows. And it's just a fantastic example to show off how much talent there is in and around Manchester. So, this is Titters saying ta-ta till next week. Ta-ta! But now, I'm going to practice my Sir Anthony Hopkins impersonation. To be or not to be? That is the question.
What about this year's issue of body image? How do we battle and deal with this?
Body image, wow, what a conversation. So the first thing is just to be really realistic that those images you see in magazines often, you know, there's sort of really tiny, skeletal almost images. They aren't real, they're not realistic. Let's get real bodies out there with real wobbly bits, with real cellulite, with real stretch marks, and just celebrate your body and you being in it. And work with the bits you love. You know, you can cover up the bits you're not so sure about, but just rock it, just be you, you know. And I think don't fall into the trap of social media.
And this year's theme is body issues. And what would you say to people that feel they're not good enough when they look at themselves?
I think, you know, a lot of people do have them issues. You know, I myself would be very open and say there's been many times where I've thought about that as well. And I think, you know, as many people would agree and say themselves as well, you know, just when you do look in the mirror, don't always look at what you are seeing in front of you. Think more about, you know, the people that care for you, the people that you love, the things in your life that make you really special, because they're the things that people have told me in the past. But you know what I mean? Just think about all them great things in your life that isn't necessarily about what you actually see when you look in the mirror physically.
Yeah, I became a wheelchair user when I was 24, and I suddenly realised society viewed me very differently. And it's weird now because I've just got a new wheelchair, and also getting used to that and I realise that actually takes 3 to 4 weeks to feel as though it's part of your body. So yeah, I think I identify quite. I think there's things that society gets caught up on a certain picture of what we should be like, and actually we're all different, we're all individual, and those are riches to be celebrated. Whereas I think if you spend so much time concentrating on the external, you're not cherishing your soul as much, and that's so important, because that doesn't make you, you know, that impacts on your mental health a lot.
I mean, when I was about 17, I had my ears pinned back because I was really self-conscious of my ear size and they stuck out loads. And thinking at the time, I remember thinking that's going to make me a better person, you know, and it doesn't. I'm the same person. It just, you know, makes me a bit more confident, and it did. But then years later, you know, I think, well, if I hadn't had that done, I'd still be the same Jed I am now.
So
you know,
did that make you feel more confident because of the way that people perceived you?
Definitely.
Or was it for you?
I thought at the time it was for me, but in retrospect, I do think a lot of it had to do with what other people's perceptions of me were.
Even when the dark comes crashing through, when you hear friends carry you, when you're broken on the ground, you will be found.
Well, that's it for this week's episode of Your Manchester. How wonderful what people will do to help themselves, and in doing so, helping each other. It's been an absolutely fabulous episode, but next week we do have Miss Manchester. We're also talking to the CEO of Manchester Pride, that's Mark Fletcher, and of course we are giving you some excellent tips on how to best manage your money. So make sure you click, make sure you subscribe, and make sure you check everything that goes on in the world of Your Manchester.